Anthony Benedettini.
Yes.
So good to have you, my friend. Mr. SDR trainer at ZoomInfo, training 300 plus. Like, how many SDRs you work with? It is unbelievable.
Yeah, it's probably like 250 to 300 fluctuates, but at our peak, it was about 400. Trimmed down a little bit now, just because we got more sophisticated in our inbound, just some restructuring. But yeah, about 300.
You guys are one of the best SDR orgs in the world. And I say that like, I mean it, because, you know, a lot of the top tech companies are like US based, but you guys are multinational. Don't you guys have SDRs in the UK, and aren't you guys all over?
Full EMEA team. So I'd say internationally, the EMEA office are in London there. Brand new office is our other international sales team. So a lot of sales positions in that office. The other place where we have an office is Chennai. So also some over there. And US is going to be Vancouver and then Waltham in Boston. We also have one in Bethesda.
Okay.
So a couple in the US. Yeah, internationally, it's all about that UK.
Yeah, you know, Waltham in Boston brings back nostalgia, because I started in Burlington in Boston with Oracle. That's where they have one of their SDR hubs. And at Waltham and Burlington were right near each other. So that's cool. And I connected with someone recently in a call. They used to be an SDR for ZoomInfo out in the UK, and ZoomInfo really shaped their experience. Like, what a company to work for, and a great launchpad to other opportunities.
Yeah.
But I do say one of the best in the world, because I have a lot of people that reach out to me to break into tech sales, and I have a whole program, and I have this 10-bound article that I'll share with them to spark inspiration on companies to apply to, and it's the top 20 SDR orgs, and ZoomInfo is in that list, just one of the best. And so with that in mind, it's cool that you've been leading the charge for these SDRs, running trainings, and I got to see you in action, man, and you were so fun with the group. You're throwing in jokes. What were you saying with like 150 plus SDRs, and you were asking them about their favorite berries, and you know, let's go with this. Like, what do you do to keep the sessions engaging? It seems like you throw in some humor, and what does it take to make an engaging like training session?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's a mix of putting questions back at the audience and always starting off. I mean, like, the intro for me is I've got my slide up, like what we're covering, but also an icebreaker question, kind of fueling just some of that chat there. I give it about 3 minutes for people to pile in, and I always have my jams pumping. I was a DJ for 10 years, so I always got some house music or maybe some fun music playing.
Yeah.
So you know, they're coming into some energy right off the bat. It's not like just a dead silence, right? So immediate at the start, and some of those, you know, I just remember certain icebreakers where like starts a debate in the chat, or like, you know, I usually just encourage like come off mute, you know, have a conversation or drop your answers in the chat, and then I'll just kind of like read off the answers in the chat, and it gets people in a good mood just, you know, before we dive in. And throughout the presentation, I will like, my main technique is to have a slide that just poses a question, and then I'll just start to invite engagement. You know, a lot of people are just, they don't want to maybe come off mute. It's, you know, usually my trainings, especially for outbound, are going to be 150 plus. So it's a lot of people. It's a lot tough to put yourself out there like that. A little bit different, you know, if you have your team of 10, but you know, when you have that many people,
that's a good point.
Like,
yeah,
it's paralyzing sometimes. You know, see the people that consistently speak up. But yeah, it's, you just pose the question back, and sometimes, you know, I say, like, I'm always going to wait until someone engages. Sometimes we'll sit there for a little bit, and some people get warmed up, and then someone will break the seal, and then more people start jumping in. So usually it's like that first person to break the seal kind of kicks off that engagement. But I'll sit there. I'm like, we're going to answer this question, right? So it's like, I'm never kind of filling the space. I'm going to let them slowly get into it. And I've done like polls before in the past, but usually I like to have more just a conversational. We call them LTSs, or learn to sell. And it helps with the flow. You know, I'll call on maybe some people, maybe I have some people lined up where I'm like, mind if I use as an example here, maybe call on you for some guidance here. We have, usually like managers will chime in, right? So we have our own Megan Huston, who's our outbound manager for SMB.
okay.
Yeah, she's been on a lot of like outbound.
She joined
Sell Better webinars. Yeah. And so we're doing everything on cold calling. And so, you know, I was like, I'm going to kind of call on you throughout for these questions to kick it off. And then she's got tips that she's adding to the pod. People are getting, you know, her wisdom. We're going back and forth. We're sharing best practices. And yeah, it's fun. All right. So, you know, I have multiple different styles of sessions. To say the main sessions that I run are going to be like educational and kind of conversational. And then, you know, midway through the month, we'll do a session where it's pretty much like a time block of work. we'll introduce a practice exercise to do, and then I'm kind of kicking it off in the same way, but really what I'm doing is time blocking 20 plus minutes just to do the exercise, right? I think it's important to learn, but I think it's more important to actually just have the space to work, right? Can say like, hey, write the script out for your cold call would be really wise. And how many people are actually going to do it? Probably, a couple of the go-getters that will actually take it and run with it. But it's good just to carve that space out for people. So you're not ingesting any more information. It's like, let's go ahead and just apply what we've learned. And here's your space, and like actually think through. I'm a big fan of writing exercises because it causes people to slow down a little bit, instead of like a lot of the managers will run their own role plays in their teams, or will use like, some AI in role play. But I think it's really great when you can write and think and slow down a little bit. And especially, when it comes to emails or even just like your messaging, any kind of messaging lessons that we're doing for Outbound, you really just want to like actually formulate thought, critically think through, match paint a persona, write something out. Because once it's like clear there and you've created that value prop or, however you're structuring your messaging, you're going to be able to think about it more clearly. And also it's almost like your study guide for your script, right? You basically created the script for yourself as opposed to just trying to say something that might not feel natural at the start.
You probably think you know ZoomInfo, because I certainly did, having built my career over the past 10 years in tech sales at Oracle, Google Cloud, and a late-stage startup on the platform, using it for emails, contact information. It was my SDR and AE fuel, and I probably owe them a few commission checks from deals I closed thanks to the platform. But the thing is, ZoomInfo's rebuilt itself quietly, and it's not just a database anymore. It's a system that powers your entire go-to-market motion. Signals come in, outreach goes out, the list gets worked, emails get sent, and the play gets triggered automatically. It's not enrichment, it's execution. Head on over to zoominfo.com to learn more. If SDRs want to hit their numbers, they need to improve their skill set.
Yeah.
In anything we do in life as entrepreneurs, whatever domain of business, and it just high performance, we need to improve our skills. And so you're helping people improve their skills. And I wanted to get your thoughts, just building on what you've already shared, on how people can, who are really hungry and motivated. They're those couple go-getters out there in the group. What can they be doing if they want to improve their cold calling? I'm just going to throw out some ideas, but build on this. Like, yeah, maybe you get a script and you write it out, but then you probably need to, practice and role play. And it's not enough to just like take something in once. It's what you do with it, and how you actually deliberately practice. Those are some thoughts, but like you've been in a like enablement role. So can you add anything more to the art of going from novice to like expert cold caller and how to actually reinforce skills?
Yeah, it's going to be different for everyone, but the main thing is you just got to carve out time for it. So it's actually putting it in your calendar for practice, just like you would have a meeting going off, right? It's just having that commitment there and setting aside the time. And I think one of the biggest pieces is awareness. Like, what do you actually need to work on? Doesn't mean you need to work on everything. We might cover something that you're already pretty good at, but maybe it's a technique that you haven't tried. So maybe it's like an experimenting time block, or it's actually just drilling the skill over and over again. It's not like when you're in a professional setting, you're in a corporate setting, you're in a fast moving tech company. You're not going to get your hand held and like walked through, the path. We're going to give you and equip you with the resources and the training. We got great leaders to give you coaching, but at the same time, you also have to have ownership and that autonomy to take it into your own hands. Like
you can't do it for them.
Yeah.
You show them all the knowledge and you can tell them what to do, but they need to turn that into wisdom and execute.
Yeah. And that's just through practice. It's through maybe a little bit of strategic thinking. It's getting together with your other teammates or other people in the industry that do the same thing as you and sharing best practices. But
accountability. That's huge. If you have other peers who are motivated.
100%. And it's like, how bad do you want it? Like, where are you going? It's right. So it's like, I feel like if you're just doing this as a job and getting paid, you're probably not going to have that desire regardless. And I think that's why I also incorporate some career development sessions. We just did one last week where those are usually my highest rated sessions because it's all just about like understanding how people moved into different places in their career.
Oh, cool.
And tips on what you can actually do to get clear on where you want to go. And I think that is a limiting factor for most reps, is that they're just not clear on the end result. It's not always, I want to be an AE. Maybe you just got into this job because it was like an entry tech and you actually want to go somewhere else, laterally in a company, tons of opportunities. And so it's getting clear on like, how much money do I want to make because it's not always just about making the most money. It's about having that balance of like, how do you like solving problems? Do you like a fixed compensation with a bonus? Do you like variable comp? Do you want unlimited earning potential? You want to be making 500K, a million a year? Or are you happy with 150 at a good balance where you can get the job done in an efficient amount of time? There's just all these questions. And if you don't know that end position, then that's like important to schedule a time for, to just understand. I'm not saying write out a 5-year plan. It's not like, understand just where you want to be in a year, right? What can I do in this next year? Because ultimately, even in tech now, it's like you can make good money jumping from tech company to tech company. But as an SDR, you're kind of going backwards because you're like, follow something through. Because, you could be at a role. I see reps do it where they leave a little bit early and then you kind of reset the clock of yourself being an SDR. So either go laterally in the company, find a new position, or get to that account executive position, then you're fine, right? You got the title, gain the closing experience, and then move forward. But yeah, sticking with it. I think the biggest thing in skill development is just the art of commitment. Like kind of sticking through and saying like, I'm going to do this for X amount of time as an experiment. But I'm going to learn a lot in the process. Nothing's lost along the way.
Commitment is a powerful concept. I was just talking with someone, I swear, earlier today about it. Just a friend like yourself that is driven and keeps me accountable. And to me, it's like, I'm going to do whatever it takes to be successful and reach this goal, like whatever it takes.
Yeah.
I might not even have all the answers now, but it's been decided, and the results will be inevitable. So I when you share preparing and putting in practice, which is not sexy stuff, right? Like brainstorming on your script, the stuff that actually leads to mastery of the skills. I think of The Common Denominator of Success by Albert Ian Gray. It's a famous piece of sales literature, but it was designed for insurance sales reps. It's an older piece of literature, but the concept, the principle is timeless. There was a field sales manager at Oracle that shared it with me. Bob Kinsella, what a guy, a true Boston guy with a thick accent. He was tough, but he got results. And the common denominator of success is that successful people make a habit of doing uncomfortable things that failures aren't willing to do.
Yeah.
I know that might sound harsh, that failures aren't willing to do, but this that we're hitting on is one of those uncomfortable things.
Yeah.
Practice and preparation, because we don't need to do it. We could just react in life and just kind of stumble our way into like maybe incrementally getting better. But I think how do we motivate ourselves to do that, along with having courage, making cold calls and doing unnatural things? You kind of alluded to this. So it's like, you got to affirm your why. Like, why am I doing this? And to your point, having a clear vision, like, guys, let's take the time to define, like, where do we want to go so that we can emotionally link the work we're doing today and that BS to empowering, like, where we want to go. We can see that connection, and so you went into enablement, which is so cool. But as you said, the SDR role is powerful because it can set you up to, you could be an analyst, you could be an account executive. It depends on what you're looking for. Let's talk about your journey, though. You did very well as an SDR, and now you're leading hundreds. What did you see for yourself in going into enablement? Why was that the right fit for you?
Yeah, it like wasn't always at the start, right? So that's one of the things in career development is understand the different options, like understand the problems that you want to solve, and then get clear on the different available options, because the timing always isn't right internally. And so I was actually wanting to become an SDR manager, wanted to go into leadership, have never led a team in my life. And so I was like, yeah, this would be awesome. I think I'm primed to do this. I do this well. I'm enjoying it. So I want to step into that. So for me, it was meeting with my senior manager at the time, and that was like that commitment, that follow through was like, great, I want to do this. I put a bi-weekly meeting on her calendar and was like, I want to meet with you every other week. I want you to tell me some feedback, and I want you to give me projects, and I want to start doing them so that when the opening comes up, you know that I'm capable of doing the work because I've been doing it, right? I want to position myself.
This is powerful right here. Like, this is already worth the price of admission in the whole podcast for anyone who sees it. Like, these are actionable tips, and how you just like communicated with your future boss and set a rhythm to also get feedback and then proactively develop the skills that would make the case inevitable for you to get that opportunity. Yeah. And you got the blessing from the person making the decision. So did you communicate it? That was very confident, by the way you're just matter of fact. Like, and was that the same tone with which you communicated it in the actual conversation?
It was a little bit, I feel like at the time, it was more like not unsure, but I made the ask. I was like, it's like, I really want to do these projects. Like, it's almost like permission-based opener.
Yeah, and we'll get into that later.
It'll be open for me just to put, a 15
Nice.
minute, like 15 minute at the start. We'll probably go over, but
Good
just,
job.
as an intro so I can continue to meet with you. And she was like, yeah, absolutely.
So a quick thing, man, is like I see this with many people I work with, whether they're breaking into tech sales or they're currently in a role and they want to get to the next level, just getting over any resistance to like actually being willing to promote yourself and ask for what you want and put yourself out there. You just said like, you don't even, at least what I got from what you said is you don't have to be perfectly polished in your ask or like this just person who has unbelievable charisma, but you got to ask. And now the way you framed it though it was a very thoughtful permission-based way of asking where they're in control and you're being very reasonable. You're not pushy. So that was very practical and useful. But I think the key takeaway is like, you got to make the ask.
Yeah.
And you're being proactive. I love that.
Yeah. Always have to make the ask. The worst they can do is say no. And if they say no, it's like, how do you find the other opportunity to make it happen so you can develop your skills? But when it comes back to timing and actually like how I got into enablement, because I was to be an SDR manager, I think our enablement manager left at the beginning of the year and that position was open for a bit. I never really considered it. And I think it's because I found it on our internal greenhouse and like the job listing was open. And I just didn't like the pay range internally. And so kind of made me think, I was like, maybe it's not worth it. At the time, I was top performing SDR. Outbound, and I was making good money. And
you were number one?
Huh?
Were you number one or like
on our SDR teams are very specialized. So I did Outbound and I was on our renewals team. So it was mostly either mitigating churn or setting up to like proactively set up for renewals or QBRs. And so it's a little bit warmer of a conversation, but I did extremely well.
You're the best within your segment. And so one thing to call out for the audience is that a company like ZoomInfo that is a very mature sales organization, there's going to be these different segments of, like you were setting meetings. It was outbound, you're hunting, but for renewals. And I imagine there's also cold outbound with accounts that they don't use ZoomInfo at all, right? And
you're trying to save the account.
And then there's others that, I mean, I guess while we're on it, this is fun, like a little bit of insider perspective on the types of SDR roles.
We've had a lot of specialized teams in the company, and we still do, but the main splits in our company are going to be new business and existing business.
Okay.
I was on the existing business side.
Cool.
I was always, even on the inbound, we have 4 levels of SDR. On the inbound, you have new business inbound, which most people are, and then we have a smaller customer inbound team. At the time, we had multiple, like 3 customer inbound teams. So as a company matures and you test new teams out, you put some people on a specific problem. The renewals teams were built off of solving a problem of our renewal. Our renewal rate started to go down. And so it's like, great, let's make a team to prevent that, right?
Yeah.
So now those teams do not exist. So I was on a team that now does not exist. It was a moment in time.
Oh, cool.
For like 2 years maybe. And now those teams have consolidated and now it's mostly upsell.
It's just a good reminder in tech, things are so dynamic. When I was at Google Cloud, I was a part of inside sales org, and they eliminated the inside sales org after my first year, and I had a great year, but they sat us all down, and guys, you have 3 months to find a new role. I was fortunate to get a field role out of it, responded well. And, but that was an example. And I actually heard, they just eliminated their SDR org, actually. A little insider scoop here for the audience, but they moved, they're going to move the SDRs to contractors. So Google is a very dynamic company, and it sometimes it's frustrating. And I know actually customers would sometimes complain that account reps changed all the time too. But the point is, I mean, it is people need to be ready when they get into tech sales. You're hopping on a bull, and sometimes it could buck you off, or things could change. And anyways, but but they eliminated that team. But you had already moved on, though.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
got it.
This was recently, like earlier on in the year.
Okay.
So at the time, like I said, it was just I had a lot of success in that role. My numbers, we go off of completed qualified meetings, were very high.
Okay, and by the way, it's like we do need to dig in while we're on it, like what made you so successful, and obviously it's a specific type of role. But is there anything else you wanted to share on this as you were riffing? Otherwise, I do want to.
Yeah, we're gonna drive back and kind of come back to the enablement side. I think the thing that made me so successful as a rep is I always found out my system, and the SDR role is very systematic. So once you found out your system, it's pretty straightforward. You show up every day, consistent. You put energy into your system, and you get that result. So it's pretty good at figuring
Love
out the
it.
system that worked for me. And my method when I was out on Outbound is do all my prospecting usually on like a Sunday. It just took a couple hours and loaded up all the prospects I wanted to reach out to for the week. Like I would find my accounts. We on the existing business, I was paired with about 8 account managers. So I had a lot of different accounts that I could chase. And so it's prioritizing who has like urgent renewals I need saves, where are there opportunities outside of that, and kind of creating my own pipeline from it. So I would line up all those people, make sure my hopper is like always fully loaded, and I never had any, I was never running out of people to reach out to. And my main like outreach method was I live in Vancouver, Washington, so I'm on the West Coast, but my entire team was on the East Coast. So there was only like 2 of us on the West Coast. And so I would wake up, I would start my day around 5 a.m.
Oh my
I
gosh.
would wake up basically maybe like 5:30. Would wake up, I would be on at like East Coast hours. I would send
Hold on.
all my emails. Yeah.
Real quick, like, what was your morning routine? You didn't just hop into work, right?
I would have my coffee, maybe a little meditation, maybe a little reading, but very quick. And then
you got to work.
I would jump.
Okay, and I know you're big on the gym too. We originally like kind of I don't know that I forget we didn't meet in the gym, but I remember seeing you at Squash. Like, this guy's shredded. Let's go, which is actually huge for energy to be productive and effective in sales.
Yeah,
that's a whole tangent, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh shit, we've got
That's
so
a whole
excuse
nother
my
thought
French,
on
but
that. Yeah.
okay, let's bring us back.
Yeah.
So you had a system. I love this because, dude, you're preaching to me. Even running my own business now, it's like I'm going to be after this working on like the system. So, but especially in the SDR role. So let's get back. You were on Sunday loading up the prospects.
I'd have multiple. So if you're chasing a renewal, maybe your main point of contact's not reaching out. Who else? You need to multi-thread on the account to get some attention, some traction. So I'm loading everyone. So like step 1 is the prospecting. Step 2 is the email. So I'd always send my email first thing in the morning. I wouldn't make a single dial till around like 9 o'clock. And people usually say like, oh yeah, morning's best. Like there's no best. There's probably best times depending on your segment and all of that. But like for me, sending an email, there would be some times where I could book 3-4 meetings before 10 o'clock email. So like my emails, I always practice my emails just being very well written and articulate of exactly what we're going to cover on a call. So my email was like that very strong message that I would volley out, send 50 plus emails. I would always have the most amount of emails sent on my team, whereas people really wouldn't, the touch points were disconnected. I would have teammates where they'd call, scattered, email, maybe leave a voicemail. I'm heavy on voicemails. I'm heavy on emails. And so the technique was send all my emails, then make dials, reference the email. Hey, I sent you an email this morning. If I didn't reach them, same thing with the voicemail, pointing back to the email. And then you're just giving them, I'd have my chili piper in there, giving them availability for times or have to work some rescheduling, or you get a response like, hey, we're not renewing. Then it's problem solving. That goes into a different area of my pipeline, but then we figure out how to solve that problem. Wow. So it's like, I had that system through the day and I just repeated it. Yeah. And the amount of volume I would get from it was really high. And then it's just, setting aside those times for meeting with your account managers. But since I started at 5:30, I was done. Our end of day huddle was at like 1:30 Pacific. And so I was done with my day at 2 o'clock. So I'm done. Goodbye. Had, usually average of 3 to 5 meetings a day booked. I think the highest day I ever had was 16. And
in one day.
And so that we call them demo days. We did them once a month. It was like book as many as possible. That was my record. And you really just like, you continue to follow that system. I think what made it powerful was my organization. So at the time we were on FrontSpin and we had outreach as a tool.
I wanted to know the technology that equipped you. Like when you're sending out, was it 50 per day?
Yeah.
Okay. Like what were you, because honestly, my whole career, I just did like manual. I'm sending emails like one at a time. And I don't know if that's what you're doing or if you had an engagement platform.
No, it was really like FrontSpin was our dialer. And we used Gmail to send out emails. Sequences were sent out through outreach, but I honestly didn't use too many.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Pretty just organized it. Like what I would do is actually set up a tab system in Google Chrome. So use the groups function. And I would basically just, my Chrome would be completely clear for bandwidth on my pipeline. Like my Chrome was my pipeline. So the groups were the different stages of the pipeline. Like green was like fresh, yellow is follow up, and then red was like, I would call it cooking, which is basically just like, these people responded, and I just got to get them across the finish line. So I would just move people through that progression. Wow. I had my cadence where I would maybe like set tasks in FrontSpin of like, okay, I got to follow up this many days. I spaced it out. And it was like send all the emails, call on top of those emails, follow through. But that tab organization system, building your own pipeline, kept me organized. And I was probably one of the only reps doing that. So I just had this unique system where it was like people were kind of setting their tasks in the software, but it just didn't work for me. Things got lost in the shuffle, and I liked my brain worked a certain way in Chrome. And so that's what kept me organized. And yeah, it was just like you create that system for yourself. It works really well, and you just continue to get results because you put energy into that system. And yeah, like I said, done by 2:00. Then
what a life
right after, right?
You must feel so good to be productive, because I'm reading a book, High Performance Habits by Brendon Burchard, and the one habit that I'm the weakest on is actually increased productivity. There's 6 meta habits that are powerful, and it's just seek clarity, generate energy, raise necessity, increase productivity, build influence, and have courage. You can imagine there's many sub practices and nuances to these habits, but increased productivity, I feel like you are crushing it. And it says in the book that in terms of people's careers, when you can get productivity right and have breakthroughs in the high quality output that matters, that actually changes people's careers and leads to crazy amounts of wealth.
Yeah.
And so I'm lighting up hearing like the system that you had in place, because I know it's going to inspire people in this audience to spark their own ideas of how they might use the Chrome tabs that you use, and how they might, maybe on Sundays tee things up and be able to set up a system to be done by what time?
It's like 2:00.
I mean, that's nice. I mean, that's what literally stuff I'm working on right now.
Fall, winter, like it's dark at 4:30. So that was my way of like, I know getting outside is important. I have 2 hours of sunlight, I'm not gonna start my day at 8:00 and then end when it's dark.
Yeah, and one of the habits from Brendon Burchard, as you might have heard, I had to throw the habits out there, and I encourage the audience to check out the book. It's really great. Raise necessity, like why do I need to do this? And you had some necessity there, and there's also probably necessity can be identity level, like you see yourselves as a high performer. You have standards of excellence that if you didn't meet them, you'd feel out of integrity. But also, it's cool to see that you had that extra necessity of like, we have limited sunlight, and how that might have actually like,
what's
proved
important
to be,
me is sunlight exposure in my health, and getting to the gym early, and like making sure that was a priority for me. So
because
make it happen,
because you're a centenarian in the making.
That's right.
And you're committed. It's been decided. And I was thinking as I was coming to see you, man, I'm excited for us both to be centenarians.
Yes.
Now, how old are you? I'm 32. I forget. How
31.
Okay, so that's funny. Like, if we're both centenarians, we might, dude. That would
be
celebrate
your
birthday. That would be so epic if we were like, if we could look back at this. Holy cow!
I'll pull this up.
Hey, cheers!
Cheers to being centenarian.
This podcast is brought to you by Saps. I do this all the time. Like, these are always here, so I do this in the podcast. But and it may be, as we start, I'll keep an eye on the time because this is flying, but we could talk more about energy and the role it plays and just showing up at our best maybe later. But all right, I'm just curious about your messaging. Again, you were reaching out to warm contacts. It's different than cold messaging, but you've been training people on that too. So we can talk about that as well. But for now, in your system, you had high quality messages, you're saying, but like, what was the high level framework that you were applying when you're reaching out to sending these emails?
Yeah, I was being very clear on what we're going to cover, or the angle of why they would want to meet, which is maybe they had unused credits, maybe there was something on their account that I noticed. It's just having that angle, and I would just always make sure my emails were extremely clear what we're going to cover in them. And yeah, I would spend time. That was the creative part of being SDR, is like crafting your messaging. So getting to test new frameworks, and like part of that tech stack, they use a Chrome extension called ProKeys, very bare bones, but it's just a text expander, right? So I had all those loaded up, and so I could easily like template out my message, do that, add the customization bits as I wanted, and then hit send. So that was just easy crafted, like depending on the account history, depending on how far out from the renewal. It's very situational, right? But on the days that I would send all those emails, I'm usually targeting people of a similar message, so I can be on that same wavelength for that day. Like target accounts with low usage, or target accounts with high usage, something else on the account, right? So it's just keeping that so you're like in the same mindset. So the objections that are going to come up that day, or the things that are going to come up, they're kind of along the same path. You're pretty equipped. Maybe you've gotten 1 or 2 objections earlier on the day. You're already kind of batting through them at the same wavelength, as opposed to like switching to X, switching to Y, and just going back and forth. So I think that was extremely important, and yeah, just keeping it consistent.
Tech sales is an amazing career path where you can make as much as doctors and lawyers without having to cut anyone open or work ungodly hours. Looking back 10 years later, having personally started out in tech sales at Oracle, then moved to Google Cloud and a startup, and now fully launching into entrepreneurship, I can say with confidence that tech sales transformed my life through the income that it produced, the skill development, the connections, and the self-development that I unlocked along the journey. If you're someone who wants to strategically build your own six-figure tech sales career without wasting valuable time and earnings potential, then consider Tech Sales Accelerator and our 12-week programs as your blueprint. Our partners are breaking in and crushing quota at top companies like Oracle, Google Cloud, VMware, and Salesforce, leveraging our in-depth video content, one-on-one coaching, community, and network access. And we'd love to partner with you too to accelerate your own success on this path. If you'd like to learn more about Tech Sales Accelerator and our programs, then feel welcome to book time at my Calendly link, linked in the description of this video, and we'll walk you through all the details. Or just download my free cold calling system that's going to help you crush the phones quickly, also linked in the description of this video. All right, let's get back to the episode. Another productivity hack right there is focusing on the same types of targets each day.
Yeah.
Let's say, there's some current partners I have in Tech Sales Accelerator. Some are account executives they have big books of business at a startup, and they actually have the whole country. And I worked with them to find, let's pick 3 cities, so like DC, maybe Tampa, let's go Florida. And let's say I worked with him to identify some good markets. We pick 3 cities. And what are your top verticals? So this is for one of those Wild West roles where you're hunting and your company didn't give you any constraints. So you simplify by cities, you simplify by verticals. Okay, we're good with manufacturing and financial services, right? Let's build manufacturing and financial services lists for each of these key verticals. Let's prioritize based on company size and what characteristics that fit your ICP. So you start to focus yourself, and then maybe, applying the principle you just described, Monday is for the, I'm trying to remember, financial services accounts in Tampa.
Yep.
That fit a certain size. So you could just be locked in to really customize the messaging to the vertical and even the local city. And you're going to have similar challenges that they're going to care about relevant to their industry. You might get similar objections, like you said. Yes. And so I just love that principle you hit on of focus. And maybe even I don't know, man, like, I actually, when I was an SDR, I did halfway decent and I got by, but I wasn't as like systematized as you. So I imagine I probably would have taken it to another level. And I'm not saying I did this, but also breaking down by persona. Yeah. Like let's say in the world I came from with Google Cloud and Oracle, and well, let's say Google Cloud, you might deal with the CTO and then like a director of engineering or VP of Eng. So you have like C-level, you have kind of a influencer, they're not quite the decision maker, then end users like DevOps engineers. And you could also like break down by persona. Yes. So I just want to think out loud. Would you do that as well? Or do you recommend it?
It was mostly the main point of contact plus a couple others that might be involved in the buying process. So it wasn't persona based. If I was a new business rep, 100%.
Yeah.
I go with persona, keeps it way more streamlined. And at ZoomInfo, we sell to a lot of ones, sales, marketing, and RevOps being the top 3. And so I would definitely keep it focused to that. I think one of the issues is when you just try to do it all in one.
Yeah.
It's not that, like, yeah, you are task switching and you're kind of, your brain's scattered a little bit. You're kind of going from one to the other, but also you're just not going to get that same level of awareness of the problems or the consistency and the objections and what you should be going. I think it's important to have a couple of days where you go deep into one area. Even if you send 100 emails, make 100 dials, and you're not getting success, it's like a great point of learning. Like, how come I didn't reach anyone? How come no one responded to my message? I must be off the mark in some way.
Yeah.
Because like it's either my targeting, my timing, my messaging in general, like my strategy, but like obviously I'm not resonating, instead of being like, it just doesn't work. I knew it. Right. So it's always learning from like going deep. You learn a lot in going deep in one specific area.
Yeah.
I think one of those things that you mentioned before is like creating necessity. One of the parts of the system, like we did have like a demo day every single month. Like I think it was the second Tuesday of the month. So whole SDR org is on the demo day. But I think what's more important to me was creating my own demo day once per week. So I would just try to have maybe a Tuesday and Wednesday be my highest volume day. And so just naturally you have one day where you're just trying to prep and go all out. Because when you create that momentum, like you could look at it two ways when you're hitting your number. You just go your daily minimums, or you can go your weekly minimums. I think weekly minimums are great to target for, because when you get those pockets of momentum, when you prepare really hard, you're getting that momentum. People are saying yes, you're booking a lot of meetings. It's like more important to ride that momentum and carry it through than psychologically turning yourself off when you hit your minimums. So, if you're like, yeah, I'm going to book 2 meetings a day, it's great. Like the brain, right when it hits that goal, is like, sweet, kind of done. And so you hit on the brakes just a little bit. Whereas like, I know that on Tuesday, I'm going to put my all and I'm just going to keep going. And even if I doing well, there's no breaks. There's just, I'm going to keep going as far as I can. I might knock out my entire week quota in one day. And so like,
wow,
doesn't mean I'm stopping for the rest of the week, but the ease and the pressure and that like system of like, I'm ahead as an SDR, the best thing to do is just to stay ahead and to never fall behind your number. If you can always be in that sweet spot of like, at the end of the month, I was always 150, 160 past quota percent. It was great, because then I'm loading up the next month. There'd be certain months where I already had half my quota in pipeline, like it's already booked. So it was never stressful. Being an SDR was never stressful, because I just maintained that standard for myself of like, I don't care if the quota is 48, my quota is actually 70. And that's my personal quota.
Wow.
So like, I'm always staying ahead by just setting your own quota. So I think it's one of those like creating necessity, like create your own standard. Company's going to give you your standard, but if your standard's higher, you should never be in trouble. There should be never a conversation where you're like, I am just having, I'm not hitting my number this month. If you can get into that sweet spot, I'm saying everything's perfect. You're going to have bad months regardless. I had months where I just did not as good, or your energy's off or something like that. And it's like, it's going to happen entirely. I'm not saying, I was perfect. But if you can get into that rhythm of always being ahead and holding your standard to being ahead and not letting that go, then you're in a great spot. You're in a great spot to fly.
We might as well call this podcast title "How to Blow Out Your Numbers as an SDR and Never Get Stressed."
And
become a centenarian. Dude, this is gold, brother. I love having guests like you that I can also just learn from. I'm going to rewatch this game tape. I encourage the audience to do the same, with podcasts like this, not just watch once, but even twice and take notes. But this is random because my brain's random. But when you maybe you from time to time, you watch podcasts or obviously you could read a book. How do you retain information? Do you go have your own process? Because you're a systems guy, like where you read, you take notes, you review the notes. I've been doing that lately, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a lot of, for me, some handwritten. I use Notion a lot, so everything kind of lives in Notion for me. I find that I pick up things. I'm able to speak about things more easily when I hear them on a podcast. I think I also like when I engage with something I read and it really sticks, then I lean into that. And like, I think the point of like learning is if you can just pull out one main thing that you could stick and it like sticks in your brain, like that's something to focus on. Usually if it's not resonating, maybe it's just said in the wrong way or it's not clicking with you yet. It's like, rereading your favorite book, maybe from 5 years ago. Yeah. You reread it the second time, or you watch your favorite show the second time and you're like, I didn't notice that the first time. Yeah. It like sticks with you that second time. So the things that stick with you are the things that you maybe want to lean into more. But for retaining information, it's learning, but also then applying, which is why, in my enablement sessions, I'm trying to get them to just have that second session where you can apply the information. And it's finding, it doesn't mean you have to apply it in work, like try to apply that outside of work and try to just make it consistent with everything, right? You learn a technique, you learn, tonality or mirroring on the phone. Like, how can you just use that in your personal life and expand it outside the scope of work? Because when you can expand it in all arenas, then you know how to adapt a piece of learning into various formats, which I think is the most important. That's what I do. Like, my job as an enabler is literally translation. I'm going to take material. I'm going to take all this like technical jargon that the company, maybe product marketing writes, and I'm going to translate it into usable material for a rep to understand. Because if I just throw you a data sheet, it's probably not going to click. Yeah. But if I can explain it in a way that makes sense or use analogies, then it maybe sticks. So I think it's just finding a way that you can reinforce that information through practice or taking good notes. Like, it surprises me how many people don't take any notes when they learn things. And I'm like, your brain's not going to retain any of this
Yeah.
at all. And I think even when I was taking and being on live sessions as a rep, like I'm taking notes all the time. I'm taking notes even when I go on like a morning walk, I'm listening to a podcast, I'm on my Notion, I'm on my phone, I'm just taking notes.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, I'm always taking that, or maybe I pause it and I'm like, ooh, that's valuable. Maybe put it in my own words.
Yeah.
Right. I think the trap with reading things, and especially in a digital format, you just do a lot of copy paste. It's not really cementing the information as well, because you're not really processing it. You read it once and then you just kind of move it. So unless you have a notes review process that's actually consistent, it's not going to be the best way to retain information. So it's really good to take a note on something in your own words, or shortened and condensed, just so that you have a way of interacting with the content.
I love it, man. And I'm actually applying some of the things you said, like with this high performance habits book that I'm sharing about now.
Yeah.
I originally read it when I took a leap from Oracle to go to Google Cloud. And that was, I don't know, 7 years ago. Wow. And now I'm rereading it. I'm having people who go through Tech Sales Accelerator actually read it too. And not only am I rereading it, but I'm taking notes in Notion. And I have different for each habit, I have notes. And now I'm rereading the notes and I'm consolidating what are the actual actionable things that now I can apply. And so one thing is if there's a great book that is transformative, to revisit it at a future time and you'll get new angles. And I do believe some of the best books I at least feel I want to read over and over to really retain it, and make it translate it into results. But anyways, all right, I'll check the time in a second, but I want to talk about Outbound a little bit, for cold outreach, because you started to hit on things like targeting, you hit on messaging. And then we can apply some of these concepts to a cold call or cold email, but let's see where we can get. When it comes to the fundamentals of outbound, for someone who's just new to outbound, where do you start to get a little bit of a foundation to be successful?
Yeah, it's hard because depends on your product, your industry that you're targeting.
How about at ZoomInfo?
Yeah, ZoomInfo.
Yeah,
just start clearly. I mean, for most of the reps I enable are going to be in the upmarket space, so anything we classify that as mid-market plus.
Yeah.
So in that capability, if you're just jumping into outbound, or say you came directly from inbound, I think I would do kind of a self-assessment of what do I not do well, or what am I hesitant on? Where am I getting the most resistance? Is it cold calling? Then I'm going to focus on cold calling. This is going to be my fundamental. Then is it emailing? Do I not really understand messaging as much? Then maybe I do messaging. But I think there's so much to learn, right? There's personas, there's industries, there's the skill of cold calling, there's the skill of writing good emails. It's a lot to take in, but you can't really take it all in at once. So it's about integrating that piece of material into, like I said, multiple formats. And I think the foundation for me, I think prospecting and targeting is one of the best things that you can do. So making sure that you're always reaching out to good fit. One, because you just have the highest chance of booking them.
Yeah.
And two, because it naturally builds your confidence, right? Someone gives you an objection on the phone, this person is an amazing fit. Maybe it's not the right time. And so if they're a great fit.
Yeah.
You've absolutely sold to this person before. We have a thing that absolutely solves what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. Then that should build your confidence. So it's using the things that are going to be confident. And one of our outbound managers, he's a senior manager for mid-market, his name is Jefferson. He goes over this with his reps, and I think it's one of the things I've gravitated to and resonate with really strongly. If it's that pre-research, it's not even in the game time in the trenches on the phone. It's it's what you do before, which is is it the right signal? And are you reaching out to the right person? Are we doing it the right strategy? Or do you know what you're going to say to that person? Whether it's the problems that you're going to bucket on the call or the thing that you're going to pitch, whatever it is, Are you targeting the right person? Great. Check. Awesome. That's like work on that, reaching out to the right people.
Yeah, I just want to acknowledge it's like you're so right, man. If you're reaching out to the right person, you don't even have to be extraordinary. It's like it like reduces the friction to setting the meeting because you believe you have conviction that it's the right person, and they're more likely to go along with you. It doesn't mean you won't experience objections, but at least you're targeting the right person. And it's what a waste of time if we're investing energy into targets that aren't a good fit for us. Like it does us no good. And so anyways, continue on.
Yeah, I'd say the next thing is messaging, like understanding your messaging frameworks. You are not going to know every single detail about, depending on the personas that you sell to. Like some companies are great. Maybe we sell to CFOs. Maybe we sell to lawyers. ZoomInfo, we sell to multiple different departments. So it's impossible to understand deeply all of the departments in a short amount of time. Just pick your angle first. You want to get good at speaking to marketing personas? Great. But what becomes before that is the messaging frameworks. So I think cold email and like crafting good emails is even more important than learning how to cold call at the start, because at least you're practice formulating the message. And like I alluded to earlier, if you are practicing the right messaging and understanding that problem and matching, it's like that area to apply the persona knowledge into the email and weave that in, then you are naturally writing that and formulating it in your head. You've written it out. You've seen it in front of you. That's your script, right?
Yeah.
How do you just translate what you just wrote into a written form? There's your pitch. It's already written out, right? So it's like, if that comes first, instead of like, or maybe if you're an auditory person, you could challenge me on this and like, you like doing that on the phone and then you work backwards and you just kind of, transcribe it to an email. That's great. But my brain works the opposite, where it's, I want to write something. I want to take my time. I want to be intentional with it. And I want to understand it. I'm a very in college I studied science. So science was always my favorite topic. And I'm all about the mechanism. Like if I can understand the why of something, it's going to help that intrinsic motivation for me. So messaging is probably one of the most important things. Then, when you get to the cold calling side, it's just that nuance. It's just breaking it down to a simple framework. And once again, gaining the awareness of where do I need to work on the call? Write down a consistent intro. So you're just removing that brain power or that brain block if you're using a different thing every time.
Yeah.
Keep it consistent.
Amen. Yeah.
Even if you're sure, if you want to do it a couple days a week to test it out at the beginning, absolutely. Take Tuesday, do 100 dials on the same opener, permission-based opener, or whatever the angle you want to do. Take Thursday, do a different one if you really want to experiment, right? If you're early on or you want to test something, just do that same one all day. So you're getting that practice and you're like, ooh, that doesn't sound right. Or like, ooh, I choked up on my tone there. So you're getting that repetition over and over again. But the cold calling part is going to take practice based on, where you're getting hung up on the call. But you need to break it down to those parts of the call so you can understand, is it the intro? Is it the first objection that's getting me hung up? Is the close? Am I not really getting a hard close? Is it too soft and I'm not getting the meeting? Like I'm getting good calls, or I'm not getting meetings. Or it's the problem. Am I just way off the mark because I didn't choose the right target, or I didn't choose the right problem to solve for? And maybe they're not going for that. So I think that's my thing is learn how to prospect and identify signals and good fit count, the timing part, when to reach out to the right people, work on your messaging, and then work on your cold calling. Cold calling is just not going to go away. And regardless, I think it's one of the most valuable skills. It's one of those confidence things. It's going to build confidence no matter what. And it's going to carry on to outside of work of making that ask. With a cold call, just even with the action of dialing, you're making the ask. Can you answer the phone?
And that's courageous, by the way.
Yeah, very courageous.
And one thing that I think is powerful is courage only exists in the presence of fear. And so it is an opportunity to be courageous. And, some very more quickly than others will become very confident on the phones, which is great. And maybe it's not even courageous anymore for you because you're a beast. But I just think that cold calling is such an opportunity for self-development, and it's all a great opportunity to become a better communicator and someone who can connect with people and get things done. And I just love how what we're talking about today are some of the highest leverage skills in the world. I love what you said about email being the foundation. If I do look at my career, although I had this, and you remember the story I shared with the ZoomInfo folks, the 10 million over 3 deal with OfferUp that started with a cold call. One of my biggest deals ever came from a cold call, but the majority of my meetings, if I actually had to break it down, including a lot of big deals that came from it, did actually come from very thoughtful cold emails and follow-ups. And so, and I've always loved the art of writing just thoughtful emails. I see it almost as an artistry. I think there's power in that through an email. If you prioritize it first, you at minimum warm up the prospect. They're gonna, with enough touch points, they're gonna see you, and they're gonna see like Anthony is actually a professional. These are good messages. They're not just like thoughts or just messages that completely miss the mark on the problem, but they're relevant. And it really warms them up, almost like marketing. But the cold calling is like the spear fishing. It's a little aggressive, a little messy, but you'll probably come away with something if you get them. And I feel like all I'm saying is I like your thinking on developing the emailing first, because not only do you warm them up, but like you said, you flex the messaging muscle that then becomes the script for the call.
You're critically thinking about what you're going to say, as opposed to just like copying and pasting a script and then saying it. It's just the way my brain works. Like, I'm truly like understanding what I am writing and how to articulate a message. I think if you can articulate a message, it can also help you become a better closer, and how you can articulate problems and connect them. So I think it's all about like connecting different skills. It's not anything done in isolation, but how do you connect? Like, why is it a good fit? Why am I reaching out to this person? And translate that right into your email. Your email is translating right into your voice. It's all connected, right? So it's like threading each of the things that you practice on Outbound together. And that's where I think you're going to get all those neural connections and those pathways being carved and being like, wow, I'm actually getting this. Because the more you connect the dots and you see how things connect together, that's when it clicks a lot faster than just things done in isolation. Not to say you shouldn't like practice maybe drilling a certain objection in isolation, but like understand how it's connected to the whole and where it might add or take away from your results.
So in the talk that I gave to the team, and thanks again for bringing me in, talk with the SDRs at ZoomInfo, it was a little rushed, and I had a later slide that brought the triple scoop ice cream cone from Jenny's messaging. But the idea was the cone is what holds it together. It's like a script and a framework, and then you've got these scoops of like basically that are tenets of good messaging. So the value, you hit on this already. Like, what are they going to get in the meeting? You're making that very clear, right? The value, I'll just finish it out because I want you to riff and put your own flavor, pun intended, on this, like as we round out principles of good messaging. And I checked the time. I was so in this, I didn't even want to look, but I realize we'll wrap up shortly. But so you get the value you're going to get. You make it real clear what they're going to get in the meeting, as you did. You said you did that. Empathy, like you said, you notice triggers. Like I noticed your sales team's growing, or the utilization had fluctuated, as you mentioned. You did allude to this, like describing problems that they might be facing, and particularly I think of describing it the way they would think about it, having empathy, right? And then finally, like I'm big on familiarity and personalization, and that could be at different levels. I think of I could notice something very specific about you, saying you're a centenarian, going to be a centenarian on your LinkedIn profile. There could be organizational synergies, and then regional synergies, and even industry synergies, right? So these are, and I'm still workshopping, as you said, because you're an enablement expert, how I package this, but these are some of the ingredients I think about. Is there anything you want to riff on around, messaging principles, anything you want to add, adjust? I just love some thoughts from the expert here.
Yeah, I mean, and by no means, like, I learn from the experts, but I'm not going to be as an expert as someone who's in the trenches every single day, right? Like, I am learning. I think one of the value adds I bring in enablement is I have the time to go and see what's working in the industry. So, I'm watching webinars from places like Sell Better or Outbound Squad, and like understanding what they're seeing in different companies and what's working outside of ZoomInfo. I'm meeting with our reps and seeing what's working, and then I'm also seeing what's working outside. And I think I love bringing that outside perspective in of what's working. And there is no golden formula when it comes to, I got to write my messaging in this way, because right when you say it like this is the right way, someone's gonna be like, well, yeah, I'm like a top performer and I'm doing it this other way, right? So there is no
there's no silver bullet, man. When I go back to my Oracle days too, that was this expression that hit me early on, man, going back 9-10 years, is there's no silver bullet. And I even had someone that she booked a call with me for a little bit of coaching at Oracle, and she just was like crushing the phones. And it's like, don't break what is, or fix what isn't broken. And it's like, I started to talk to her about email messaging, and as we said, it's really important. But I realized, like, for her, she just was crushing the phones, and there's just different strategies and approaches that work for different people, to your point.
Yeah.
You know,
so focus on, I mean, double down on your strengths. Like,
yeah,
by no means you have to correct every single weakness.
yeah,
You can't do it all. And so lean into what you're good at and make that your superpower, but understand how to tie it back and connect it with the other things and make them good enough so that it gives you the warm up into what you're really good at, right? Like, how do you tee yourself up for the slam dunk? And it's just like, okay, good. I'm like, it's like, this I'm okay at. Let's get this good enough so I can like pass it to here and pass it to here and then shoot and score. Like, this is what I'm amazing at. This is what I'm closing at every single time. And yeah, there is no like messaging frameworks. You know, there's a lot of like, what I teach in email is, you know, personalization tips, keeping the subject line short. You know, there's all these techniques, right, that you can use in messaging, highlighting different problems. But once again, it's going to be different if you're on like an existing business side, if you're on a new business side, if you're on enterprise where you have a little bit more sophisticated buyers, more competition, than an SMB side where you can get to a decision maker really fast. So it 100% depends on like segment and also your team, where your ICP is. So there is that no framework, but understand, I would probably, like, when it comes to messaging, understand your segment or your personas the most so that you can just making sure you're articulating and connecting in your messaging the problems that are relevant to them. And that's really all it is. And, you know, those are going to be different from, like I said, like an SMB company or an enterprise company.
Yeah. And so the messaging fits into the broader system, right? And it's important thing to get down, and once you get it down, you can kind of rinse and repeat it. You might tweak it a little bit based on a company and their industry and a persona, but I want to go back to, I mean, not that we're going to riff on it, but I want to acknowledge once again the power of the system you built. And I forget if I said this because I was thinking it as you were saying it, and I was lighting up like, man, Anthony gets it. Like, we don't rise to our goals, we fall to the level of our systems and habits. So I don't know if did I say that earlier? I just wanted to emphasize, like, that is one of the major takeaways of this conversation. Okay, and we're about to wrap up. I have to ask you on cold calling, like, you really diagnosed, I thought it was cool, where are you struggling? Are you getting hung up on with the opener? Are you getting hung up on after a certain objection? Are you having good conversations but not setting the meeting? And this is something we can do in a future podcast where we deep dive. Like, I realized we could just go all in on cold calling, but within that spectrum of the cold call, is there like a tip or two you might want to share to leave us with like a nugget for cold calling that you think like, based on where you see people struggling, that could allow someone in the audience to have like just a takeaway that they could apply to be more successful? It could be around the opener. It could be around how you frame problems. It could be on asking for the meeting. Just an open question. You choose like a nugget or two that you've seen that could be useful to someone. Yeah.
I think one is being able to articulate problems really well, not benefit pitches. Like, I'm not going to, there's a million things that I could buy they look cool. Kind of can compare it to supplements, like, because magnesium is a benefit, and then this adaptogen is a benefit, and this is a benefit. Great. So you're now going to have $1,000 a month supplement budget because everything's good. So you just don't buy that many supplements, right? Like, no one does that.
Maybe it's interesting, by the way, because like sales tech and technology in general could be like supplements where you could buy. There's a lot of tools that help you gain efficiencies, but some companies, one of their challenges, they have this sprawl of tech and multiple tools. So it definitely applies whether it's supplements or tech, right? If you're focusing on the benefits, it's not the best approach.
And I think what I see some people do is just kind of pitch the benefit or talk about products. Like, I don't give a shit about products.
Yeah,
people care about the problems. And I think that's the main thing, is like, understand problem language and how to tie things back to what they're actually going through, and solving for that instead. So articulating problems more clear, and like the problems that you solve or the headaches that you make go away, instead of just like the nice to haves that it's not really a necessity to buy. So I think that's one, is just understanding, you know, persona problems more and what you solve for as a company. Like, what are all, and at ZoomInfo, we call them use cases. So we have a like big focus is, you know, we should be pitching through use cases. So the use cases are all the proven problems, and we have numerous case studies in which we've derived the most value to customers that we solve for. So
Mm.
you know that they are going to get value because this is a use case, a proven use case. That use case might have 2 or 3 products that it aligns to, depending on the persona and what it is, but it will help that end goal or that use case. So like aligning it to that use case or that problem is going to be more important than like filtering it through the lens of what product do I need to pitch for that problem. It's like you're kind of going to product first, which it should be going to problem first and then backwards tracking. It's this solution, right?
Yes.
Should be able to be like, we could solve for that by doing, quick pitch X with Y with the product, but it's not about the product. So it's actually like that we're going to make this go away for you, or we're going to be able to do that. Would that be interesting? Right. And I think that's a good one on calls. The other area where I see people get hung up on is just, I think when it comes to openers, it's not having a clear, it's not being confident at the beginning. Like it's not knowing how to adapt or pivot on a call. So if you are like, you're opening, you're going, and say you're leading into your main problem pitch. In our case at ZoomInfo, the one that I see this most common to is like, where one of our use cases is bringing on new business, right? How are you bringing on new business today? Like, there's a lot of companies that, you'd think in theory, like, no one's going to turn down new business. But there's actually some companies that are at capacity to bring on new business, right? Maybe they don't have the delivery systems in place. Maybe they've got referrals out the wazoo.
That's a real thing.
They don't need new business, right? So they don't need more leads. So how do you pivot on the phone? What's the other use case or other discovery question I can ask to uncover maybe a different problem in the business? Because we have a whole ecosystem. So it's not just giving up. It's like, I think that's why when you think of like, I'm going to pitch this one product, I'm going to pitch our intent, and then they hit you with like, actually, we're not bringing on new business. And you're like, wait, what do I do? And it's like, oh, well, I guess, okay, it's not the right time. Goodbye. It's like, actually, like, there's actually how you're prioritizing the accounts to grow in what you already have. How are you, you have, everyone in your niche industry. How do you know when they're actually primed to buy? And that is, another use case is actually bringing in from like a TAM to what we call a PAM, like a prioritized account market. So the 10% of customers or prospects that are actually in market for your solution based on intent signals and intelligence that are ready to buy. Basically, if I reach out to those people, you're going to have a way higher likelihood that they're going to hand you the credit card and sign the deal, as opposed to the other 90% who are not really in the market. It's bad timing. They're not showing signals at all. But you're reaching out to these people and you're getting nowhere. You're wasting your time. So I'd say that it kind of goes into the prospecting side, but understanding how to pivot and adapt on calls. Like, do you have a plan B? And do you have almost like, I feel like the first sales job I ever had was Cutco, selling knives. And I think one of the coolest like selling techniques there is just the drop down sale. So like everything I'm going for, right, on a demo is building up the value. I'm like, yeah, this is going to be huge. And it's like, yeah. And it's really only like $1,200 for these knives. People are like, what? And it's like, okay, no problem. But then like, that's the main ask. But then maybe like I drop down a couple times and like, that's my pivot. Maybe I'm not dropping down or pivoting this many times on a cold call. You don't have that much time, but like, where's that next pivot? Where are you dropping down to, or where are you just going laterally to?
Yeah.
Where you can be like, oh, no worries. I actually must have missed the mark on that one. But like, let me ask you this. And then you just go, like the next thing, right? But it's being that confident of like, don't shut yourself down because you're going for this one sniper approach. And you're like, I got to get them on this thing, which, like I said, like it's important to understand who you're targeting and like they're a good fit. But they're also probably a good fit to make a decision on another problem in their business. So where are you pivoting to? So I think adaptability. So the two main ones there, like understanding the problems really deeply, and then being able to pivot and adapt on calls to either another solution that you offer or just another pain point that you solve for.
Speaking of pivoting, let's pivot to our final question topic. You're a centenarian in the making. Health is very important to you, and wellness.
Yeah.
And so let's just talk about the role health and wellness plays in your life, your success, your vision. And we'll tie a bow on this. This was amazing, brother. So, and I look forward to the next one. So let's talk about this theme.
Yeah, it's essential. Like, in my opinion, health is your wealth. I worked in the health and wellness industry for about 6 years. And just learned so much through that time. I mean, while I went through college. All my fraternity brothers went into like corporate finance and, you know, just things that were more on the financial side first. So, you know, I wasn't making as much money in my 20s, but I did go deep into health and was a self learner, studied nutrition in school, and then just worked in various health companies. And through that process, it's very important to me. My great grandma was 100 years old, and so it's kind of where I get the inspiration.
Wow.
But also, I just see people struggle with things later on in life, and because they're surrounded, like the norm in America, unfortunately, is like disease and not wellness. If you look at, you know, the stats of our country and the obesity rates, and I think it's like 1 in 3 people are pre-diabetic. Like that's a problem. That's saying that like a lot of people are not well, and to me, that limits the amount of things you can do in your life. Like, I never want to limit myself to where like I think I'm getting old, or like every single year I'm getting better because I'm learning something and I'm accumulating more wisdom. And I see it creep up when you get to a certain age and you're like, start pre-expecting problems. You're like, oh man, like I'm getting old. Here comes the pain. Here comes this. And it's like, that doesn't have to happen. It doesn't, because I know people that are, you know, 70 and thriving, 80 and crushing it. Like, you just have to get into a mindset where like, if you are it's the consistency over time. Once again, like build the habit of consistency of like, I want to feel good. Like that's, of course, like you're working in tech, you're making a bunch of money. Like, what are you going to do with it? It really sucks when you don't have the energy to do what you want.
Yeah.
Like when you're sick and it takes you out for 3 or 4 days of work, like, and it's no fun.
If you don't have your health, but you have all this wealth, you really have nothing. Seriously, like and especially like your mental health too. You know, I had it in the pandemic. I had some struggles with depression, and I grew so much from it and made me better off. But at that time, it felt like I'd lost my mind, honestly, and I laugh now because comedy's tragedy plus time, as I say. But at that time, I'm like, wow, if I don't feel like mentally and emotionally good, I have nothing. So there's that component too.
Yeah.
So the mental, emotional, and the physical health. We got nothing. It doesn't matter if you're making hundreds of thousands of dollars. You have a huge nest egg. You know, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. I mean, let's say then you get diagnosed with cancer or something like that. Then what happens, right? Then life's not so long. And so it's really important to create those habits early on.
Yeah.
And more of a preventative mindset. But like when it comes to sales, like sales is energy. The one who's the most sure is going to win. And so I know that when I'm feeling good, I'm usually going to win. And it usually gets me the places that I want to. And because that confidence is up, my certainty is up, everything is up. And I think when you're feeling good, when you're getting all that energy, it just helps you. There's never going to be easy street. It doesn't matter what position you get in life. It's not going to get to easy street. Like suffering is built into the human equation. And I think that by trying to avoid it and getting to easy street all the time, like, yeah, let's say you've cracked the code on financial wellness and you're financially free and you're doing great. Then you focus on the relationships in your life, which is like the long-term fulfillment. Are those perfect? Maybe not, right? Maybe your health is not perfect. So there's all these like pillars that you focus on.
Yeah.
But I think when health is the driver and you have energy to do things, think of a battery, like the body. And, you know, through my health and wellness, I subscribe to the body as like a battery. We all carry a charge. When that charge is low, doesn't matter even if like the quality of food is good and you're doing the right things. Like when that battery is low and you have accumulated a lot of damage, a lot of inflammation, a lot of stress, things are just not going to operate well, and things are going to start to deteriorate. And now you're going to have to start investing this money and these resources into things that you could have prevented a long time ago if you just kept it consistent.
Yeah. And the other thing too is when our energy is bigger and better, we are more productive and we make more money as well. And although that's not the really end goal, it's just ultimately what matters. So thank you for putting things in perspective. Thank you for an amazing conversation. Let's win. Let's keep growing. I can't wait for the next one. To the audience, to your success in tech sales and in life, happy selling and happy living. And we'll see you in the next one. Appreciate you guys so much. Proud of you. And keep going, keep growing.